This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
What that means to Kenya and how we are preparing for that, and also just with regard to the changes that we see happening, the VAT tax being lowered to 8% from 16%, how that what that means to the people of Kenya and also the business community. Dr. Patrick Obath is a consultant, mining, oil and gas, and here we're talking about if war persists, a global economic shakeup. Daktari Patrick.
Thank you.
Karibu sana.
Asante sana.
We should refer to you as Patrick.
Yes, call me Patrick. Daktari, engineer, what have you?
Yeah.
Hiyo ni zile ambayo tunafanya nje lakini si hapa.
All right. Yeah. Karibu sana to the Situation Room. Now, before we get into the conversation, every week we go to a different country. And this week we are in Djibouti, a beautiful country, population of 1.1 million people. Just got out of election, elected the president for the 6th term, former colony of the French. So it's a French-speaking nation, but mostly, traditionally, it is a Somali-speaking country. But due to its engagement with Ethiopia, we also have Ethiopians in the country. Intermarriages happened, and all these people make the country what it is today. And the proverb that we get from the country that is Djibouti, peace is better than victory. Peace is better than victory. How would you interpret that?
Peace is better than victory.
Mm-hmm.
That's quite a powerful statement, actually, because victory means there is a vanquished and a winner, and that creates a tension. And that tension could continue so that effectively you can still have skirmishes, you can have wars, you can have everything else. But when you have peace, it means that the whole ecosystem will coexist and want to coexist together.
Yeah.
So I fully agree that, peace is better than victory. Always, if there's any tension, it's always best to come to a mutually acceptable outcome, which is peace, rather than victory, that I managed to bash so-and-so into submission.
Yeah. And as you talk about peace and victory, go straight to the conversation. The Strait of Hormuz.
Yeah.
There is no victory there. There is no peace. And we see the ramification of that across the world. And that has affected Kenya, where we stand today. Fuel has just gone through the review by EPRA, 40 shillings, 26 shillings increase. The president yesterday giving a direction for VAT to be lowered all the way to 8%. EPRA implemented that. But that notwithstanding what it is we are seeing, what exactly does this mean to the economy? Because at some point you served at KEPSA. What does this mean to the private sector when we see fuel prices playing at what it is they're playing at?
When you look at the increase in fuel price yesterday, the one that went up highest was diesel.
Diesel, yeah.
And gasoline didn't go up as much. And we'll come back to why when you look at global scenarios. But diesel is the biggest driver in this economy. And what has happened within Kenya is that diesel has been, the price has been suppressed because it affects almost every single aspect of our lives. Transportation in Kenya is mainly done through diesel engined vehicles, and whether it is transportation of goods, whether it's transportation of people, doesn't matter. 90% or even 95% of the vehicles doing that are all diesel driven. When you look at the next big sector is the agricultural sector. Again, their diesel is the biggest contributor to costs in that area. So transport, agriculture. In terms of the manufacturing sector, diesel isn't as big, right? Because diesel is not used for generation of electricity anymore, because I think Kenya has gone in the direction of renewables, and heavy fuel oil could also be considered as part of diesel, and a lot of those have been shut down. But there is still a fairly big element in the manufacturing sector. But it will be hit because the manufactured products have to hit the market and they have to be transported as well. So it will be hit from that point of view. So diesel is probably our Achilles heel as a country. And the fact that it's been spiked so high means that we're going to see a significant impact on the cost of living in Kenya as a result of that spike. And even that spike that we've seen is suppressed as it were, because really the global demand of diesel is actually quite high.
Yeah.
So, yes, so this is going to hit this country for a bit. And because of the way we structure our pricing, which is every 14th of every month, which is 4 weeks, 5 weeks, we are going to be stuck with that. Whereas when you had a free pricing, it would actually flow depending on global pricing. So in a way, this price controls and this schedule can cushion us in certain instances, but in this kind of instance, when there is a lot of volatility globally, we have to suffer for it.
Yeah.
And one wonders what local mechanisms, particularly because one thing that really comes closest is cushioning. And of course, the targeting for pricing, where we know that every 14th of the month, or 14th of every month, we have reviews that are done by EPRA ETC. But looking at two things, Dr. One is sustainability of the economy, because you've rightfully said that major economic drivers, rely on fuel. But then the second thing is, what must we do locally? What are some of these things that we have to do? There, a few years back, we were told that we have, certain deposits in Turkana and other places. How far is that? What are we doing? What are some of the effects? And if you look at, the economic drivers, those sectors that you are referring to also relate to revenue streams, for government, etc. But so what must we do locally, even as we look at these global recession ramifications?
I think globally, locally, there's several things that have to happen. And let's park the issue of Turkana for now.
Yeah.
Yes.
If we look at the structure of the use of fuel, our transport infrastructure and system in this country is highly inefficient.
Yeah.
When you look at the number of vehicles that are sort of parked on a road on average at peak times, and they're all burning fuel.
Yes.
And that fuel is going nowhere. It's just going up in smoke, not action, not movement or anything. That needs to be taken care of. And you will then remove a lot of the cost. So our road infrastructure, we are almost literally about 20 years behind where we should be.
Wow.
I think we only started, with the Thika Expressway, Thika Highway. That was the first big spike. And then after that, it took a bit of time to start building roads that should have been done 30 years ago in Kenya. Yeah, the ring roads that are happening and all these link feed roads inside Nairobi should have been done a long time ago. We should not be having, overpasses like the expressway. That should be that's what they should be building.
Yeah.
And then the highways connecting the different towns again.
Yeah.
Those are some of the things that internally we need to start doing so that we have an efficient road transport system. The second thing is vehicle occupancy. If you see the number of single occupancy vehicles in this city, it's very, very high. And a lot of people are doing that just because of convenience, to get them from A to B. We need to get our mass transit systems in place, right? And the mass transit systems in place, we don't use fuel, we use electricity. Right? And if you start looking at all these small incremental items, they could lead to a very big shift in terms of the demand of hydrocarbon inside Kenya. And the more sustainable we go, the better that would be. And then when you start talking about Turkana then doesn't become one of the things you're looking for in this country. Turkana, as we sit now, the discovery of oil in Turkana was done almost 15 years ago.
Yeah.
And then from the discovery to a point where you say we have enough to be able to invest took about 6 years, right? And at that point, then the decision was we now need to start thinking about how to get the oil out of the ground. And then you found that the Talo then decided to start taking some quantity out to go and see what it would look like in the global market. And they did that. And they said, it's a heavy crude. It is sweet, but heavy. And therefore, it can be sold on the global market. The quantities that we have is such that if we were to bring it to market and send it out, it would only get us what you call the crude price. Yeah. So at the end of the day, if you look at that differential of that going out and the product we bring in, we still have a delta. We'd still be at a deficit because we are taking out crude. And there's something which you call, the crack, which is the difference between the price of crude going out and the price of product coming in.
Yeah.
And if you look at diesel, it's about $30 per ton, right? So we still have to pay that on a delta, and for I think for gasoline it's about 15. Yeah. So it is not an answer as such. The opportunity of Turkana, if we are to be serious as a country, is to convert it into higher value products, value addition, right? And that would mean investing in not a refinery, but what I call a petrochemical complex. Because a refinery only brings you to gasoline and all the rest of it. That is not value addition.
Yeah.
Value addition is when you go from crude oil to things like polypropylene, propylene, ethylene. You go to fertilizer. So propylene and ethylene are used as inputs into manufacturing.
Okay.
Yeah. You can go into fertilizer. You can go into textiles. You can go into pharmaceuticals. All those things. That is where you really get value out of the hydrocarbon, right? But to do that, we would need to have the production, the capacity of about 400,000 barrels per day.
Okay.
That is the minimum economic size globally. And that is why our refinery shut down, because it was too small. Yeah, it could not compete with the 400,000, 500,000 barrels a day refineries in the Middle East. At that level is when you really begin to become a petrochemical complex. Now, we will probably at the best be producing about 150 to 200,000 barrels a day from Turkana. So to make that work, we should have had to talk Kenya, Uganda, and South Sudan.
Yeah.
Right? If you put those three together, what they have found in Uganda, what you found here, and what South Sudan is producing already, we'd get to about 500, 600,000 barrels per day. And put in a facility that when you look at the bigger the bigger region, would actually begin to add value and impact on the economies of all three countries. But a political discussion on that is not easy. It's not easy. So Turkana for me is not going to answer our question. Right? We are still going to have a deficit, as I said, that crack, the crack differential between crude oil and product will still be there. Yeah.
Fair enough. Mr. Beth, I don't know, with this crisis, and we're talking if the war persists, because I think today we are just 6 days away from the ceasefire period coming to an end. Is it time we diversify in terms of, where we get our fuel from? Should we look at, Nigeria? Should we look at, Asian countries? Because if we continue with, the way we are, then the issues of, geopolitics, the issues of, issues that do not directly relate to us end up costing us more. So should we probably diversify, look at that as a better option?
This is it's a long question that you asked, although it's a very short one that you put, but the answer is very long. We went into a G2G agreement, and the G2G agreement was not about supply. Forget it. It wasn't about supply. It was about stabilization of the dollar. That's all it is. We buy now and we pay within 180 days. And that means that we can source our dollars and sort of stabilize it. And if you see, since the G2G came up, the dollar has went from something like about 150, 160, right? And came down to about 129, 130. And it has stuck there for over a year. So the G2G has achieved what it was intended to, dollar stability. But the G2G structure is not favorable for product because it is a spot buy. You buy as of now. It is not a trading agreement as such. It is more of a financing agreement. Now, if you look at the traditional supply, you are looking at, as a trader, looking forward, looking at scenarios, and then buying forward, buying 2 months, buying 3 months in advance, based on what they see in the crystal ball. And that will normally be a situation that a lot of people in the trading world are very good at. Yeah, but that means that pricing will then be moving up and down, but not moving up and down on a daily basis. It's based on a longer term prediction. So if you're to diversify, we have to go away from G2G.
Okay.
Or the G2G agreement has to be made different so that the traders are allowed to trade to give us a better look wider. So in the current situation that we have with the G2G, the only way that the only thing that it can do is that the suppliers who we have, which are government-owned entities in the Middle East, it's not the governments themselves, but it's their national oil companies which are working in that space. They will have to source product from elsewhere if they can't get it in the Middle East. Yeah, but sourcing it from elsewhere means they are buying it at the global market price. So we are not going to be shielded in terms of price through the G2G, right? But it still operates the same way. They'll find it from somewhere, all right? And they'll buy it from Nigeria, they'll buy it from wherever it is. And if we are to buy it from Nigeria as a country, break the G2G. You can't say you have a G2G and then you go and buy Nigeria.
Yeah.
Okay.
Then you have to have a government-to-government agreement with every single government that has got crude in that country.
Yeah.
And that is completely untenable.
Patrick,
Yeah.
we find ourselves in a very interesting space, So there is G2G. Other oil players cannot bring in product. We've just seen what that meant. The PS and everybody else in EPRA now in court for going against the G2G deal. Now, whether the other intricacies, it did not meet quality standards and all that. That is still there. But remember, it was because they did not follow the policy of the government, which is G2G. So we also talk about, for us to deal with this, we have had conversations before on the need for the country to invest in its own depots, in its own reserves, to cushion us in rainy days. But for some weird reason, that is not the conversation that we're seeing happening in terms of having our own billions of barrels stored within the country, so that when these pricing shocks happen, we are cushioned in the meantime. Should that be the direction then that government of Kenya, the people of Kenya, proceed to, even perhaps with other governments in the region, so that we say, as East Africa community, these are our oil reserves that we are putting in place for when the rainy days come, we are cushioned.
Reserves cost money. That is point one.
Yes.
Somebody has got to cough up that money.
Yeah.
And if you look at the evolution of that discussion in this country, 30 years ago or plus, the government said, oil companies, you must hold sufficient for the national reserves. Now, an oil company is a commercial entity.
Yeah.
You can't tell them you hold stock on behalf of Kenya. So in their wisdom, the oil companies said, and they were told, you have to do it. There's no, and it's part of your license to operate. And this is where sometimes you make a decision and other people meet it in a very cheeky way. So if you look at all the storage in the country and the whole pipeline system and everything else, there is what you call dead stock.
Okay.
The bottom of the tank has got a certain amount of oil in it that you can't remove until you pump it out to clean the tank. Yeah. The pipeline always has to be full.
Okay.
Yeah. All that product belongs to the oil marketing companies. None of it belongs to KPC. KPC ni chuma peke yake. It's just the chuma, the pipes, the tanks, everything else.
Yeah.
They do not own a drop of product. That is owned by the oil marketing companies. Even now with the G2G, when it lands in Mombasa, it is allocated to an oil company that has paid for that molecule. So it is being handled in the KPC system on behalf of somebody. So as an oil company, I said, okay, there is this total amount of oil in the system that is there. It's mine, but it is dead stock. I won't have. I don't have access to it, but it is allocated to me. The line fill, the bottom of tanks, and everything else. That is my strategic reserve, my contribution.
Yeah.
But that contribution cannot be used because it is sitting in the system. So yes, you have it, but yet you don't have it. That is what forcing the oil marketing companies to sort of put in place that thing resulted in. So effectively, we did not have strategic reserves in the country. Flip that into the opportunity. The opportunity that we have now, especially with the refinery shutdown, the refinery has got plenty of land. It's the one place that within the whole ecosystem there is land, and the government has got land in other places. We have this thing called the Petroleum Development Levy.
Yes.
Right? And a couple of levies that are actually embedded in the price of fuel. If our government was intentional about getting strategic reserves, the first thing they would do is to use some of that money over time, because you don't do it and it's there tomorrow. Most countries, it took them 5, 7, 10 years to get there. So we would actually start using that Petroleum Development Levy and some of the other levies. We can say we will allocate it to creating the National Reserve. And we build tanks in Mombasa, in Nairobi, in Kisumu. So you spread them across the whole country based on the percentage volumes that are consumed in those areas. But Mombasa is probably the best place to have most of it at the beginning of the pipeline, so you can take it everywhere. And then once you build the infrastructure, you still use the same levy to slowly fill up the tanks. And then we would build up our national reserves. And ideally, for a country like ours, we should have 60 days. That is the optimum. 30 days is too short. 60 days is about right. 90 days is too many on that basis. So that's the long answer to the short question.
And interesting proposals there, I would say, especially when you look at the bigger picture and the long-term investments that we have to do both as a country and even as a region. But I bet that, Dr. these are conversations that you have had in big places, with the quote-unquote big people in government. What do they say? What do they think? What are some of the policy shifts that we really have to see as a country, and therefore to make it easy in terms of cushioning the citizens?
Okay, please don't call me Dactari. I'm going to be crucified either by doctors or by professors. Professors. Because I haven't under that title.
I
but anyway,
withdrew the title.
Coming to that. There is this saying in English: where there is a will, there's a way. That will has not been there.
Wow.
That will has not been there at all. So, we always talk about strategic reserves and everything else, and people sort of do it in public forum and everything else. The solutions are simple, right? And it is only the national government of Kenya that can make that work. Nobody else. And they have the wherewithal. They have the money from the levy that you're paying as users. They have the land, either through the oil facilities they have now, or in other areas adjacent to those. The government has got land everywhere, right? And if we were serious as a nation about getting strategic reserves, we should start pole and say we are going to do it within 5-7 years, and then allocate that money from the levies into doing that, right? And that requires a committed government of Kenya, right? And I just go back: where there's a will, there's a way, but the will is not there.
Would it be partly, Dennis, if you allow me, why we see names that are being mentioned, for conflict of interest, big people, big names again when it comes to this oil saga and the challenges that we have as a country?
I won't go into that space, but I know. The appearance from the outside looks that way. But the details, kulendani, you'd have to unravel what it is in that place.
All right.
Okay, fair enough. I almost call you Daktari. Shouldn't call you Daktari. Talk to us about, as someone who has been in that particular space. There's, I was going through it and what they call the force majeure risk.
Yeah.
Talk to us about it. What happens in case, again, I want to focus on in case this war, escalates further. Talk to us about that.
A force majeure is an act of nature most of the time, right? Which is basically if you had a cyclone and it knocked out all those ships that are sitting in the Strait of Hormuz, that would be a force majeure. This is an act of war. An act of war is not insurable. There's no war risk unless you put war risk. And what you see now in the Strait of Hormuz, a lot of because of that, the ships are sitting there because nobody is willing to insure them completely. So under a situation like what we have now, you cannot declare force majeure on any way. So there is no escape from the supply people. All they're saying, this is war, and war is something that you would have to insure against as a supplier. And if you're not insured against it, you have to meet it. So if I have a supply agreement and then war happens, and I haven't taken war risk insurance, then I have to supply at whatever price it is. And that is why I say, the G2G agreement meant that those guys will have to find an alternative source of supply.
Okay.
The Middle East is blocked, so the three companies, Saudi Aramco, ADNOC, and ENOC, have to find supply from somewhere else. And of course, they have done exactly that. They have gone global, and they're looking into West Africa, they're looking into Europe, and they're looking into the Far East. And the biggest areas now, if you're talking about getting fuel, basically you're talking about Rotterdam in Europe. That's a big, there's a lot of storage there, and a lot of companies, trading companies put fuel there. The East Coast to the US, and then Singapore. Right? Those are the main areas. India has got a little bit because they've got large refineries, but it's also a large consumer. So there it is not as big. So that is where they'd have to go and buy from those markets. And those markets respond to global pressures. So you're finding those prices have gone up, all of them, in those areas. So the same guys who are supplying us are now buying it at that price in those areas to bring in. So the war risk is purely price rather than supply.
Yeah. You see, you mentioned something earlier that I think is critical in terms of the political goodwill to ensure that we have reserves. But even now, as we are into G2G, I want to look at a possibility of conversations with would-be suppliers. So is there room then for Kenya, say, to get into a conversation with Saudi Aramco so that they set up their tanks here as a reserve for them, right? Have a discussion, G2G, they set up the tanks here for supply to other markets because they say Kenya is the gateway to East and Central Africa and North Africa as well. So could those kind of discussions as well help in the long run in addressing these shocks and shortages that we see whenever we have all these shocks?
That is actually another alternative. If you look at Morocco, they set up a port called Tanger Med. They had a great space, but the government of Morocco never invested in it. They got the company called Maersk. One of the largest there. Maersk are the ones who invested in that port. And then why did they invest there? It was a break bulk place for them, where they'd bring the super container, whatever it is, and then bring them there. They flowed onto smaller ships to distribute into the Mediterranean and onto the West African coast and into the Western European coast as well. So if we are to do that here, if we are to look at that, we would have to look at Lamu Port. Which would then become a sort of a break bulk, breaking down the large super tankers into small distribution across East Africa. One country that did it, but they didn't do very well because of, they had fights amongst themselves, was Djibouti. Djibouti had a place called Dorale, which was a big distribution opportunity for Somalia, Ethiopia, and those countries going into the hinterland. That's what they did. But unfortunately, that didn't quite work. So the opportunity here is to actually get a trading company. Not those oil companies. They could be because they're traders. But there are companies like Trafigura. There is a company like Vitol. All these other big global traders who have got large storage facilities in Rotterdam. To tell them we have Lamu Port, which can take big ships. And we will basically allow you to build a full storage and transit facility in that area. And in that space, we also want you to build for us so much that can be held as our strategic reserve. Which means as they trade, they're also holding some of the strategic reserve. And you pay a small amount for that, for them to hold it. So it's like you're paying interest on a loan, and that is all you pay. And those guys make money, whilst in fact they're not even holding it for you; they're just using it for trade. It's a very nice sort of way of doing it without spending too much money and getting somebody to do it.
Yeah.
But then you'd have to create what they call an SEZ for them, so they can operate in that area. So you're spot on. That can work. Mombasa is not the place. Lamu is the place for that to happen. And Lamu, if they had thought through it well, they should have started by getting large organizations like Maersk, Trafigura, or Vitol, and all those kind of people to invest in Lamu as a consortium and put the facilities and use it immediately from that point of view, without necessarily looking at it as an export into East Africa, but more as a transient place. That would really make sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
So one wonders, talking about oil and gas, Patrick, is it high time we began, enhancing our renewable energy processing, or where are we, and what does the future look like?
I think, like anybody else in the world, the more we go into renewables, the better in terms of driving the engine of the country. Getting us out of oil as a world, the world in general, is not going to happen.
Yeah.
We will reduce it. We'll remove it from where it is affecting, heating climates and whatever it is and so forth in terms of combustion. But there are certain qualities or things that you can get out of that oil that we need in the world that we still need it for. So you, like I talked earlier about all these, manufacturing facilities and everything else.
Yes.
We just use crude oil for that, or you can use natural gas or whatever it is, and that is all you use it for, not for driving engines and so forth.
Yeah.
So I fully agree that Kenya is very well placed in terms of the fact that almost 90% of our, about 85% of our energy
grid,
is actually from the renewables, and we need to pat ourselves on the back for that.
Yeah.
Great. Okay, Mr. Bath, again, let's come back to the country, and again in regards to the issue of GTG. Of course, the government, gave us the subsidy of around 6.5 billion. But let's look at the sustainability, because if this war again escalates or persists, then are we able, or are we in a position to, continue these subsidies? Because I was looking at, the Business Daily this morning, and they say, in that particular deal, and they've highlighted here the Aramco Trading Fujairah. They say that particular entity wrote to Kenya saying that they are getting their oil products from a different country. They didn't state which country, and they say the consignment for August will be more expensive now. So then that means we are set to we have to buckle up now, because tough times are coming. But the question is, if these subsidies deplete, what are we looking at?
Subsidization is not an answer.
Yeah.
The answer is to face the reality as it is. Now, let me give you the scenario you have.
Yeah.
What is the fuel levy per litre?
21.
5 shillings and 40 cents per litre. That's how much it is per litre. Right? What is the subsidy at the moment? 22 shillings per
22
litre.
shillings, yeah.
So you need 3 months or 4 months
Yeah.
of subsidy to pay for 1 month.
Wow.
It's not sustainable. Just that math tells you it is completely unsustainable. But also, the reality, if you look at the fuel, at the Petroleum Development Fund, the audited accounts from the Auditor General, if we are to collect 540 per litre, and all of it lands in that Petroleum Development Fund, it would have about 55 billion shillings a year. Right? The audited accounts of that particular levy fund shows that it received 25 billion. What happened to the other 30? Imetoka, ikaenda mahali. It just disappeared into the system. So even there, we are not being honest with ourselves. So instead of having 55, you've only got 25. And that 25 is not enough to sustain what you're going into. So if this continues, to answer your question, they reach a point whereby we say, okay, now we have to start, because we promised it, going to have to start grappling within the exchequer somewhere and get money out from other places where now really you will get a proper subsidy from the government. This is, we are subsidizing ourselves with it. We are paying the development levy and then it's being given back to us. We're subsidizing ourselves.
Yeah.
Right? But the reality is the government is not subsidizing anything.
So,
Yeah, we are taking ourselves into a very, very bad position by making that to the public when we know it is not sustainable.
it is not sustainable. Because this then means, with just what you've pointed out, is that in the next 3-4 months, there is a possibility. Okay, we are facing a situation where fuel prices in the adjustments by EPRA might just go way beyond what you're seeing right now, and that Kenyans should get ready to face that as it comes.
The government needs to have an honest conversation with these people.
Yes.
Right? There are scenarios. You can build up scenarios 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yes.
If this happens, this is what's going to happen. And the scenarios are not purely on the war.
Yeah.
There's a whole range of things that work, because for a barrel of fuel, there's a higher cost for diesel and a lower cost for premium and even a medium cost for jet kerosene. Yeah, and that crack, as we call it, that delta changes a lot, right? And if you have a suppression of supply of the actual material, not crude, but diesel, and diesel is in very high demand globally. If that happens, the crude price may stay there, like diesel may go up as a price alone. And when that goes, it means that we will have to put more subsidy into that place. Yeah. So the government has to now start talking scenarios and playing out scenarios and educating us. Right. I know where this thing is. I know I've got my scenarios playing out already.
Yeah.
And as an individual, I will know what to do. But the whole country has to know.
Give us a
exactly
scenario.
what is going to.
Give us a scenario.
Tusaidie.
Give us a scenario.
I mean, I spent time yesterday working on this last night.
Yeah.
So some of the areas that really you look at is, first of all, is the Strait of Hormuz.
Okay.
That is the first one. The second one is the fact that the Saudi pipeline from east to west, that has got to play in. And then there is the barrel, is it Bab el Mandeb?
Yes.
Yeah, the near the Straits of Aden. Yeah, that is another one that can also enter into the disruption.
Yeah,
because if that happens, then we can't get product from the Red Sea coming out, because the Red Sea is an alternative supply.
Yes,
into there. So the first scenario, based on all those things, is that the Strait of Hormuz remains partially open, which it is now. There's some stuff going to China and places like that, but not all of it is coming out. The Saudi pipeline will compensate for some of the crude coming out. The Bab el Mandeb remains open, and most of the infrastructure in the Middle East remains as it is.
As it is.
The refineries are not hit, whatever it is, and so forth. So that crack on diesel, that differential will be moderate. So the prices will rise slowly, based on that. For us, it means that prices will probably go up at the rate of about 5% in East Africa. So it will remain elevated where it is for that period of time. So availability is there, slightly higher cost, no crisis.
No crisis.
If you have a change, Hormuz constrained, Bab el Mandeb disrupted, that will now not have an effect on supply, but it will be on shipping, insurance, freight, and also the demand will also now change as well. Right? So that will give us an increase of 10 to 20% in the pump price.
Okay.
Just that alone.
Yes.
Will do that, yeah? Again, it is the diesel crack that will widen. Yeah? That's what will happen. So the cost of diesel will go up even more. And diesel is really our Achilles heel.
Yeah.
Because gasoline doesn't have that big crack.
Yeah.
The third scenario is now getting even worse. If Hormuz is dead, Bab el Mandeb is also dead, and the Saudi pipeline capacity is completely chock-a-block. You can't increase any more coming up because on that basis. And the whole of the Gulf becomes a risk area.
Yeah.
There we are talking at about 30 to 40% price increase.
Oh.
Here. Those are the scenarios that we have.
Yeah.
Right? So you can't say that the price is going to go here. It depends on a lot of things that could happen. And we need to be constantly modeling this and understanding, if this happens, what do you have to do as a country?
Yeah.
And the biggest thing that we have to do as a country, and this is even for the long term, is to reduce our consumption.
And you see, when we talk about these models, then it gives an opportunity. The government has to involve citizens in these conversations so that we follow clearly what's happening in all this geopolitics, so that we know if this bubble is hit, if Saudis is not able to, and Strait of Hormuz find itself where it is, this is where the country is at. And we have to make difficult choices because we have no control over the price increases. It will be expensive. But you've mentioned about our demand or our consumption as a country. You know, when you talk about consumption, very many people think of, it is transport, it is industries, agriculture, right? But you forget that you drove here alone, right? If we had a public transport system that is working and that is reliable, he might just have to take an electric bus from his house here because he trusts it. But then conversations between government and citizens has to change such that the government provides that service to wananchi in an affordable way, in a way that is secure, so that we leave our vehicles at home. The demand on the petrol that is being shipped in will go down because we've reduced the number of vehicles on the road. That when such things happen, we have fuel because we know at the back we are covered. These are conversations that we must be having now into the future, if you reckon.
I couldn't agree more. And I will give the examples of nations where I've lived and worked and been, which have transformed rapidly. I lived in Malaysia for 4 years, and they had a wonderful thing called Vision 2020. Yeah, and 2020 in Malay is duoplo, and that's their language.
Yeah.
And the president Mahathir Mohamad then it was in 1990. He was talking about 2020. That is how long? 30 years.
Yeah.
They had this vision. And that vision has stayed on to now. It hasn't changed. And different governments have come in, and they're still implementing various parts of that vision, slightly modified because technology has changed, the reality has changed, and things have happened. Solar has become more available, etc., etc. And so you can deliver on that vision with the current reality that you have in terms of options. Kenya does not do that. Who is the vision carrier for Vision 2030 in this country?
The delivery.
Who talks about it all the time today?
Nobody.
In Malaysia, the Prime Minister, Mahathir, talked about it every day. He lived, breathed, did that for the country. And therefore, it meant that the total policy for the country was directed towards achieving that.
The vision,
What has happened to that country?
It's bad.
It has gone up. It is whatever. Look at Petronas. Petronas is sponsoring Formula One.
Yes.
Alongside whatever it is. And that was a very small company at that time. But they didn't say it has to be a national oil company. It still is. But say Petronas as a company has got almost 180 subsidiaries. It didn't say we have to do it ourselves. It's just partnered with people who came here and said, you want to do this? Okay. Partner with Petronas and you can set it up. And so forth and so on. So, absolutely right. We have to have a national policy in the widest sense of everything. And stick to delivering it. And look at what is good for the country, probably not what is good for the party. And party manifestos are great when you come to elections and everything else. Every party has got their manifesto. But that must be hooked 100% to the vision of the country, right? And it's only a question of an emphasis of matter for each one of them, but it should be linked to the same way. And we looked at these manifestos of the various parties at the last election. They're not that different. But they all had a different, they were emphasizing one thing more than the other for each of them, right? But unfortunately, they were not anchored in the vision, in terms of the big things that can make a difference in this country. And what you've talked about in terms of getting transport systems working, looking at our infrastructure, looking at health, looking at education, looking at water, looking at sanitation, all those kind of things, that should be the focus. Because once those are done, then Kenyans will deliver.
And you see, in terms of delivery for Kenyans, a lot of times we probably imagine that we have very either little or no responsibility. And looking at the role of the citizen against all these pillars, against all these, what I would call the mechanism of things, what would be the role of the citizen, looking at the context? Because this is, they say when two bulls are fighting, it is the nyasi. This is the vitu kwa ground, ni wananchi. What is the role of the citizen in the sphere of things?
I think we all have a responsibility as citizens. The first one is the people like me and you going to the village and doing public,
awareness,
public education. The government can't do it. It's not their priority. Right? Although they should.
It should,
Yeah, but it's not their priority. It is the likes of us who know what is going on to actually, whenever you go to the village over weekends, whatever it is, just when you meet your relatives, whatever it is, talk to them. Start educating them. And can you imagine how quickly that would percolate down there? Don't rely on money from from NGOs and all the rest of it. Just me and you. We have that responsibility. And when people begin to realize how powerful their ballot is, how powerful the questions they can ask the people in the political space, that is what will begin to change the dialogue that happens in the country, and therefore then begin to bring us closer to this cohesion as a nation in terms of where we want to go. Right? But that responsibility can't be left to the government. It will never happen. It is for the average, for the citizen who understands to educate the citizen who doesn't. And then we all take a collective responsibility for shaping what this country is going to be. And I take it. I mean, this talking here today for me has really normally gives me an opportunity because I get asked a lot of questions. And I actually make that opportunity of then educating people about what I know. From that point of view.
Okay, Mr. Bath, coming back here in the country on the issue of taxation on fuel, because when you look at petrol, we pay around 82 shillings per litre goes to tax. And there has been concern that the Treasury and the government are treating, fuel as a reliable revenue stream, yet it is an intermediate, output. How can the government then handle that particular situation in terms of ensuring that at least we reduce the, taxation on matters of fuel? Is it an issue of trying to diversify, or if they fail to diversify, revenue streams so that we are, heavily depending on fuel to get revenue?
I think the whole tax area in this country needs a rethink and a more innovative rethink. And I always go to the way Safaricom grew their market. You remember when, I don't know whether you guys were in the scene there at that time, when a SIM card used to cost
2,500.
No, it was a lot of money. 2,500 shillings for a SIM card.
Yes. I remember that time.
How much does it cost now?
Free, actually.
It's free.
Yeah.
Exactly. So when it cost 2,500, that was what was actually constraining the market. So what did Safaricom do? They made it free. So everybody rushed. So the expensive thing was a mobile phone, but people wanted their mobile phones to work. So everybody went and got a SIM card. That grew their market. Then after that, they started saying, okay, we are going to put M-Pesa on this. That's the next stage. When they put M-Pesa on that, they had to do KYC. So you had to register. So they got everybody to register and so forth. So in a way, that free SIM card is what caused people to take that. Now, when you talk about tax, you have to make sure that the benefits of taxation are visible. So how will the guy in Gikomba pay tax when they can't see the benefit of tax?
It's an investment,
They can't see it. So we have to carefully as a government begin to put the tax to work where people can feel it, right? Infrastructure is great. That is big. But a guy who walks to work will not feel that infrastructure.
Yeah.
So you have to go to those areas where a lot of the people are working in the Geopolitical sector, whatever it is, and improve their livelihoods there with tax money. Okay. And then you tell them, you guys, this is your tax that is working for you here. Why don't you actually pay tax? Because you're not paying tax, it's somebody else who's paying for this to happen. Then the next stage that you do is not to all of a sudden tax them, but get them just to register into the tax bracket and tell them, see, your turnover is so much.
Yeah.
So up to say 100,000 or even 1 million shillings, you pay a fixed amount, not a percentage. Yeah. So kama jina yako, once you got your PIN and you've declared this is your income, you pay 50 shillings a year or 100 shillings a year. Now, if you imagine the whole of the Geopolitical sector paying 100 shillings a year each, that is already income. Then they see the benefits. Then you now start playing around with how much you pay, what the tax brackets are at that level, and they pay it, you know, what do you call it? Kadogo.
Lipa
Mdogo mdogo. And they pay every, they pay every week.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they say within a year you have to pay so much. And they can pay more, they can pay less.
Yeah.
That way, innovating, getting people used to it, pole, and they use the structures that they have. Within time, people will begin to pay tax.
Yeah.
That's a good place to end the conversation, gentlemen. It is not only just a responsibility of government, it's a responsibility for Wananchi to be on board on this, but greater responsibility is on government on how they will rethink on the vision of the country and how we will implement that so that at the end of the day, when these shocks happen, Kenya stands tall and gets to provide for Wananchi. Patrick Obath, consultant, mining, oil and gas, talking about if war persists, a global economic shakeup and what's the way forward. Asante sana. Right now it's time for Newswire at exactly 9 a.m. Good morning. That comes with Leo Baga.
The latest news from around the world. 94.4 Spice FM. This is the Situation Room. The only way to start your day.